Hey, what's going on, guys? And in this video, I'll be going over the formative assessment question just to, help you guys out if you didn't really know what was going on. But I have to say, guys, if you look at the video quiz, I think Professor Alfaro did a pretty good explanation. This is just some supplemental support in case, just extra practice, I guess. So, to begin, first, we gotta remember how Python acts. First, Python scans for any defined functions, and then it starts executing. So what we do first is that we have to ask ourselves, is there any function that's been created? If there is, let's add it to the global space. So as you can see, we have two functions, w and v, and we're going to go ahead and write them down here. So we're going to go ahead and write w, v, and identify that these are just functions. Now that we did that, let's actually get to executing code. So the functions, they haven't been executed yet, they've only been defined. Our actual line of code that we're going to execute is first 10 and then 11. So let's see what happens. So 10, we do n is equal to 0. Because n is outside of all of the indentation, this is also considered a global variable. So let's say that we executed that line of code and we're going to do n with the value 0. Next up, we're going to figure out what res is. So let's go ahead and go here. I think it's valid if you do res and don't put a value yet. So let's do res, but we can't put in a value yet. This is technically a global variable, but we need to figure out what this value is, which is v of n. So to complete v of n, let's actually go into the function right here and then actually execute it. So this is calling the function, and we're gonna see any local variables inside of it. So for functions, we're gonna have to ask ourselves, is there any parameters or anything inside of the parentheses? If there is, add it to the local namespace for that specific function. If it creates a local variable outside of the parentheses, then that is also considered a local variable for that function. So we're now looking at v, and as you can see, we do have something in j. So let's go ahead and write down j right here. But what is the value of j? Let's take a look. We defined n is equal to 0, and then we did v of n. Because n is 0, and this says v of j, g has 0 right now. So the value of j is 0 because that's what we passed in as an argument. Next, we have to ask ourselves, did we make any local variables? Just looking at the code right here, actually, we created a global variable using the global keyword right here. So we didn't make any local variables, but instead, we executed this line, which creates a global variable. So we will write down g. And then next up, we set g is equal to 4, so that line is executed. And next up, the next line of code is return wg times j. So we execute that, and let's see what that happens. So as of now, that is all the local values we see for v because we finished executing it, and so far, no other local variables have been created. But we have to see wg times j. And honestly, g times j is the same thing as saying 4 times 0. So end of the day, this entire thing is just w0. So let's go see what the locals are for w. So when we call on w, we're going to do the same process, ask ourselves, is there anything in the parentheses? If there is, add it in, and see if we create any local variables. So because there is something in the parentheses, we're going to go ahead and write down j. Let's figure out what j is. Because we know we called it with a 0, that's what its value is going to be. It's going to be a 0 right here. Alright, cool. Now that we got the parentheses stuff out of the way, let's see if we create a local variable inside of the code. And as you can see, this right here is also a local variable. Remember, this n is different from the n outside here. If we wanted to make it equal to the n outside here, we would throw in the global keyword right there. But because we don't have it, this n is a totally different entity than this guy. So this would be n, and set it equal to 2 as a local variable for w. Next, the next piece of code, it says return n times j. But because we're going to stop at when line 3 is executed, this is all we need. So I think the valid answers is this, where you don't even have to include this guy even, but I'm just going to include it just in case, saying it is technically a global variable, but it just doesn't have a value yet. So here, honestly, if you want to be safe, because I know the video quiz might differ and answers might differ, you can say assume include all global vars even if not fully initialized. But because we have the constraint at line 3, we're going to stop there. Res actually doesn't really have a value, it's just still waiting. So yeah, that's the code, guys. So if you have any questions, go ahead and review the video quizzes or ask anyone around. Hopefully this was clear, and yeah, good luck in your exam, guys. Bye.